May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight, God, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Friends, there is only one character in the whole Bible who gives God a name. Now, God has many names and titles in the Bible, but they all come from God except one. The only person who names God in the scriptures is Hagar the Egyptian, the slave of Sarah and Abraham. Hagar names God El Roi, the God who sees me. And she names the spring where she meets God Bir Lahai Roi, the well of the living one who sees me. There beside that spring, an angel appears to her. This is back before we get to today's brutal story of the casting out of Hagar and Ishmael, back when Hagar is first pregnant. She runs away into the wilderness from ill treatment by her mistress Sarah. Yes, Hagar is a runaway slave. And there in the wilderness, an angel of the Lord appears to her and says, "Now you have conceived in your womb, and you will bear a son, and you will name him Ishmael." We will hear these same words with a change of baby name spoken by another angel to a different woman in a few months' time when we are approaching Christmas. Gabriel will say to Mary, "You will conceive in your womb and bear a son, and you will name him Jesus." The gospel thus associates Mary with Hagar. So who is Hagar? And how does she colour our faith? It is worth remembering today that not long ago in the scheme of things, the Bible was used in our world as an instrument to overturn the legal acceptability of slavery. It's important to remember this because the world out of which the Bible emerges, and in particular the story of Hagar, completely assumes slavery as a normal, acceptable part of life. The angel said to Hagar beside the well of the living one who sees me, "Hagar, slave girl of Sarai, where have you come from and where are you going?" Hagar replied, "I am running away from my mistress Sarai." The angel of the Lord said to her, "Return to your mistress and submit to her." Then Mary said to the angel, "Here I am, the slave girl of the Master. Let it be with me according to your word." You see, the gospel story uses slavery as a metaphor for Mary's faith. The images of a slave submitting sexually to her male master, just as Hagar is forced to be a surrogate womb to produce an heir for Abraham. And frankly, that is repulsive to me. The stories of Hagar and Mary offend me with their acceptance of literal and metaphoric sexual violence and enslavement, of gendered power, and in Hagar's case, of racial oppression. They are offensive, and there is no redeeming them. Last week, when our Prime Minister walked back his comments about there being no slavery in Australia, I realised that I too am programmed by enculturation and education to think of slavery as a thing that happens to Africans in faraway times and places. It was important for me to be reminded, along with the Prime Minister, that a number of Australian industries, pearling, cane growing, the pastoral industry, they relied on tens of thousands of Indigenous and Pacific Islander slaves, including indentured workers, over the course of more than a century. And that this slavery was state-sanctioned and in some places continued until the 1960s, when equal wages were instituted and the Aboriginal Protection Act was replaced by welfare. Hagar evokes the enslaved of the world, including the enslaved of Australia. She is the foreigner, the enemy, the outsider, the other. She is of a different race, a different religion. Her body is used and abused, and in the end, she is cast out to die because her person and presence offends. She has a claim on those with the power, and they cannot bear it. Sarah said to Abraham, "Cast out this slave woman with her son, for the son of this slave woman shall not inherit along with my son Isaac." We are living through a time in our world when the divisions and injustices that Hagar embodies are being highlighted and protested, and there is hope for change. So, say her name, Hagar, cast out to die in the wilderness. Say her name. Yes, her story offends modern sensibilities, but it also offends ancient ones. For shall the son of this slave woman inherit along with Isaac, the racially pure son of the master? The answer is yes. For the God who meets Hagar in her distress is called El Roi, the God who sees, and Hagar's life matters to this God. El Roi sees Hagar and her son, sees Mary and her son, sees all the children of Abraham, Sarah's and Hagar's, Jews, Christians, Muslims, equal inheritors of the promise. El Roi sees all people, all the outsiders, all the othered of the world, sees every creature of the good earth and loves them, and loves them. And friends, God sees you. Whoever you are, God sees you. Then God opened Hagar's eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and gave her son a drink. May God open our eyes that we too may drink deep from the well of grace and join God in seeing and loving all people, all creatures, all creation. Amen.